For over a century, a tradition of intercollegiate athletic excellence has been strong in central Nebraska. This is an inside look at that tradition. This is the University of Nebraska-Kearney Loper Review. Loper Review is brought to you by Nebraska Star Beef, from our family to yours.
Hello and welcome to Loper Review, our monthly check at athletics here at the University of Nebraska at Kearney. I'm Randy Bushcutter. While many of the people that we interview here in Loper Review may eventually make it to the UNK Hall of Fame, well, none are there just yet, except for one man that we're going to meet later in the show, who is a legendary Loper football coach, Al Zickman. Also this month, we'll be proud to tell you about a Loper football player who also had a career in the U.S. military. We'll sit down with another UNK senior athlete, this time one from Florida, who's endured Nebraska's weather to contribute to the men's basketball team. And of course, Loper Review would not be complete without another visit with Professor Kelsey and her latest lesson from MIAA 101 as we check out Central Oklahoma and Washburn University. So stay with us. Loper Review will continue right after this.
Loper Review is brought to you by Nebraska Star Beef.
The Nebraska Star Beef Pure Promise. No antibiotics, no hormones, humane treatment of animals, USDA choice or higher, a price that is always fair, and satisfaction guaranteed. At Nebraska Star Beef, we pay close attention to what we feed our families and are passionate about delivering beef that you can feel good about serving to your family. Visit us at nebraskastarbeef.com for more information.
Programming is made possible in part by the Museum of Nebraska Art in Kearney. From the artist explores, through the modern era, to the art of today, Mona tells the story of Nebraska through the art of Nebraska. Whether you're online at mona.unk.edu or on our doorstep, there's always something new to see and do.
This is Loper Review, brought to you by Nebraska Star Beef.
Welcome back. You know, Loper football coaching legend Charlie Foster began coaching here right after World War II. And legend has it that, well, it was almost impossible for him to discipline some of those World War II veterans that were playing on his football team. That is almost the complete opposite of what Adam Lehner contributed to the Loper football program by bringing plenty of discipline with him after putting off the beginning of his college career by joining the Army and becoming a member of Special Operations Unit that saw action in both Iraq and Afghanistan. Lehner was slowed by injuries much of his UNK career, but proved to be one of the top Loper receivers when he was at full speed.
I was one of those high school kids, you know, I did everything I needed to stay eligible for sports, and then that was kind of about it. I wasn't real good in classes and things like that. So it kind of came down to, you know, was I ready to go to college straight out of high school, or would it be that the military would provide me with some discipline, some different things in my life that I needed at that time? The hardest part for me was definitely boot camp. You know, just the culture shock from going, you're a high school kid, athlete, kind of, you know, doing whatever you want with your friends and things like that, to, I mean, you can't do anything. Atmosphere is there's a time and a place for different things when you're deployed. You know, when you're on base and depending on what time it is or where you're at, you know, you can goof off and, you know, do some stuff with your friends and things like that. But it's almost like kind of football field. You know, when you step on the football field, you know it's time to go. When there's certain places over there, I mean, when you step off base, I mean, you're 100% business. It's all the mission. It's the only thing on your mind. You know, and stuff like that.
They certainly are a little older, and they bring a little bit more maturity to the table. They're a little bit more of a calming effect in the locker room, and they can talk to guys about, you know, different things in terms of this is difficult or that's not really as difficult as you think it is. You know, I've done this before. So, I mean, we've never had a problem with those guys coming back into the program or coming into the program with those experiences. We've always felt like they were a positive for us.
Yeah, it was kind of hard at first too. It was almost really frustrating coming out of the military and coming into college as a freshman, because a lot of places they still treated me like a freshman. You know, kid coming straight out of high school or something like that. When, you know, with the experiences and things that I'd been in, you know, in my mind and you know, probably others, I clearly wasn't. Just with, you know, I mean, I got 3-4 years of growing up in some pretty disciplined environments before I even came to school. So it's a little frustrating and almost felt almost insulting sometimes when, you know, teachers or professors or even coaches, you know, think you can't handle or do something because of the fact that it says freshman by, you know, your name or something like that.
Well, I think his military background probably helped Adam deal with some of the more difficult parts of college football, and that is the hot days of practice and the long hours and, you know, getting up in the morning and doing those kind of things. He came into the program with some background of having to be certain places, be on time, understand the chain of command, you know, take orders and try to get things done as best he could.
Yeah, there's a lot of similarities. You know, football, you know, whether it's weights or meetings or practice, stuff like that, you got to be on time. There's no tolerance for being late, same as in the military. Same as in the military, I mean, if you think of the coaches as your superiors, I mean, it's their world. What they say goes, and it's their, you know, their team and their school, and you got to do what they say you're going to do, you know, or you're not going to play. I mean, the biggest difference, I guess, is, you know, in the military, if you hate all the stuff that your drill sergeants or captains or whatever are yelling at you, you can't quit. You know, you're stuck there. As opposed to, you know, here in college on the team, you don't like it, you know, I guess you can either just transfer or quit, but there's no choice when you're in the Army.
Well, the way Adam ended up being a leader for us was he was a kid that just had tremendous desire to be successful and ultimately find himself a place on this team where he could be a contributor and be a good teammate. And I think Adam always wanted to be a good teammate, and you know, we finally found a spot for him at wide receiver, and he became a very productive player for us. So his desire and you know, desire not to give up and never say quit really did come through for him, and he actually became a very good weapon for us offensively.
It's hard for a kid that age to, you know, kind of look at themselves and say, am I ready for school? You know, I mean, I didn't, you know, realize that I wasn't ready to go to college straight out of high school until after I was done with the military and finally got to school, when I was just like, you know, if I would have came here at 18, you know, there's really no way I would have been able to handle it. I love all the coaches that I had here. I respect them all, and I think coming to UNK was a real good decision for me. It was kind of a last stop after my 2 other schools, you know, and everything worked out great for me here.
Well, our thanks to Adam Lehner for joining us on the show, for playing for the UNK football team, and obviously for his service to his country. It's time for us to take a quick break. When we return, we'll sit down with Hakeem Morris-Saint, a basketball player from Florida who is adjusting to winters here in Nebraska.
Loper Review is brought to you by Nebraska Star Beef.
The Nebraska Star Beef Pure Promise. No antibiotics, no hormones, humane treatment of animals, USDA choice or higher, a price that is always fair, and satisfaction guaranteed. At Nebraska Star Beef, we pay close attention to what we feed our families and are passionate about delivering beef that you can feel good about serving to your family. Visit us at nebraskastarbeef.com for more information.
Programming is made possible in part by the Museum of Nebraska Art in Kearney. From the artist explores through the modern era to the art of today, Mona tells the story of Nebraska through the art of Nebraska. Whether you're online at mona.unk.edu or on our doorstep, there's always something new to see and do.
This is Loper Review, brought to you by Nebraska Star Beef.
Well, Kearney, Nebraska is about 1,700 miles away from Delray Beach, Florida. The reason we mention that is because today's Loper in our senior spotlight is from Central Florida, not too far from Fort Lauderdale, Hakeem Morris-Saint. Now, you've come here, you've been in Kearney for about 4 winters now. How does a young man from Delray Beach, Florida, make their way to Kearney, Nebraska and handle the winters?
Well, it's been tough. Actually, the first time I seen snow was my freshman year, so I was excited. But I was just looking for an opportunity to play basketball, and Kearney presented itself, and here I am.
Talk to us a little bit more about that process of how you decided to come to UNK and the process of being recruited by Coach Kropp and Coach Lofton.
Well, it was getting late in the recruiting process as a senior, and I was going to be out of state, and I was looking for a school to go, and Kearney popped up, and Kearney and a few other schools were my final options, and I respected the coaches here, the program here, and it's passed, and I just want to be a part of it.
Started telling people that you might go to Kearney, Nebraska. What kind of conversations did they have with you about being so far away and being in a climate that's so cold?
My family was sad just because I was going to be so far from home. Like I said, I never seen the snow before. I never been through the winter that I heard that Nebraska has. So yeah, they weren't too excited about me going to Nebraska, but I was, because it was a new opportunity for me, and it was a change, and here I am.
Well, you weren't, it's the middle of winter. You're wearing a light jacket. You've adjusted.
I have, yeah, I got used to it. It's hard just because, I'm used to the sun and, the heat. But I've been here for 4 years, and I got to just bundle up, and it'll be fine.
Long ways away from mom and dad to make it. Have they been able to make it much?
They have not in Nebraska, but the first game they got to see me play in 4 years was against the University of Florida, back in Florida, and that was the best experience. I couldn't ask for nothing else. Got to see them, they got to see me play, and it was great.
What has been the best thing about coming to Kearney? What's the best thing about being a Loper?
I'm getting an education. That's the most important thing. I got to meet some of the greatest guys that I'll ever meet. Got to build relationships a long way from home. My coaches, everybody's supported me. It also taught me that I can be a man and live on my own and don't have to depend on my family, my parents for everything. And so hopefully it'll help me in the future.
Again, down the road, your basketball's going to be over with. What are you studying? What direction are you going to be going with your life?
Well, I'm studying exercise science with a minor in sports administration. I would like to stay around the game of basketball, but I like that exercise health area. I want that around me as well. But I want to coach. I want to be around the game of basketball, and I'm not really sure where life takes me after this. But I'm work hard wherever I go, and I'm looking forward to whatever's next.
Whatever challenge that is.
Yes.
What would you tell somebody coming in from Florida to play basketball?
Well, it's going to be cold, a lot of snow. But if they're coming to Kearney, they're coming to a good program, a rich program in terms of tradition. The community cares. I met some of the nicest people I ever meet in my life. People that support you. You're gonna get a rich education here, and although you're gonna be far from home, and it might not be the funnest city to be in, but you'll learn a lot.
Hakeem, again, thanks for the time.
Thank you.
Time for us to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll sit down with Professor Kelsey in MIAA 101 right after this timeout.
Loper Review is brought to you by Nebraska Star Beef.
The Nebraska Star Beef Pure Promise. No antibiotics, no hormones, humane treatment of animals, USDA choice or higher, a price that is always fair, and satisfaction guaranteed. At Nebraska Star Beef, we pay close attention to what we feed our families and are passionate about delivering beef that you can feel good about serving to your family. Visit us at nebraskastarbeef.com for more information.
This is Loper Review, brought to you by Nebraska Star Beef.
Welcome back. Time now to sit down, be quiet, grab your notebooks, and we'll find out about two more members of the Mid-America Intercollegiate Athletic Association as we sit down with Professor Kelsey Morgan for another edition of MIAA 101.
Welcome back to our latest lesson of MIAA 101. This month we're going to be taking a look at Washburn University in Topeka, Kansas, and University of Central Oklahoma in Edmond. Our MIAA 101 history lesson looks at one of the more unique schools in the conference, although there is one aspect of the school that is not unique at all. The MIAA already has a Lincoln University, which is located in Jefferson City, Missouri, but they aren't the first team in the conference to have that name and be located in a state capital. Washburn University began in Topeka, Kansas as Lincoln College in 1865 on land donated by an abolitionist named John Ritchie. 3 years later, fellow abolitionist Ichabod Washburn donated $25,000 to the school, even though Washburn lived in Massachusetts and had never been to Kansas. The school's mascot became the Ichabods to honor their benefactor. 30 years after the school was founded, Washburn's medical school was involved in a grave robbing scandal. 3 doctors on the faculty had charges against them eventually dropped. A school janitor was convicted, but that decision was later reversed on appeal. And a non-school employee was convicted, but later pardoned. Disaster struck Washburn in 1966 when a tornado demolished much of the campus only days after students had gone home for the summer. Some classes met in temporary trailers as the campus was gradually rebuilt over the next decade. Among the school's most well-known alumni are former Kansas Senator and presidential candidate Bob Dole and TV newsman Bill Curtis. Athletically, the Ichabods have the second most MIAA championships with a total of 38 since the school joined the conference in the fall of 1989. 10 of those conference titles were won by the men's basketball team, with the women's team claiming 8. The football team finished on top of the MIAA in 05, 07, and 2011. Geographically, personal research by the Loper review staff has determined 2 good routes to Topeka. Both involve taking the interstate to York and going south on Highway 81 to Belleville, Kansas. There you can either go on south to I-70 and then make a straight shot east, or you can go east at Belleville on Highway 36 until you're turned south on Highway 75. But if you do take the Highway 75 option, you'll have the temptation to stop at several casinos. Most of the schools we've studied here at MIAA 101 began as teacher colleges and evolved into full-fledged universities. Add one more to that list with Central Oklahoma, located in the Oklahoma City suburb of Edmond. UCO is the oldest sanctioned public institution of higher learning in Oklahoma, beating what is now Oklahoma State by a few days and the University of Oklahoma by a few months. All this happening about 3 years before Oklahoma became a state. UCO has now grown to be one of the largest schools in the MIAA with just over 17,000 students. Most of those students probably attracted to a school that offers a postgraduate degree in jazz music. Probably not quite as many attending the school because of its undergraduate degree in funeral services. UCO takes its jazz program very seriously, and especially since 2001, when the school built a jazz lab that not only includes a performance area, classrooms, and recording studio, but a pizza parlor as well. One of the first things most people in Nebraska notice about the UCO athletic team is that they spell their nickname, Broncos, with an H after the C. That name was chosen in 1922, a year after they began competing in what has become the school's top sport, wrestling. The Broncos have 7 NCAA Division II wrestling titles on top of 8 from the NAIA. One of those D2 titles was won here in Kearney in 2007 when the Lopers finished as the runner-up. And as with UNK, UCO is a newcomer to the MIAA this year after leaving the Lone Star Conference. Geographically, just go back to our last lesson and remember how we went down Highway 81 to McPherson, Kansas. Only this time, instead of turning east to go to Emporia State, stay on what is also Interstate 135 until you get to Wichita, where it becomes Interstate 35. You'll be entering the outskirts of metropolitan Oklahoma City when you reach the Highway 77 exit. Go west from there for a couple of miles and you'll be in Edmond. Thank you for joining us for this session of MIAA 101. I hope to see you again next time as we continue our journey through the Mid-America Intercollegiate Athletic Association.
Thanks, Professor. We look forward to seeing your class in the spring semester. Right now, we're going to take a quick break, and when we return, we'll take a look at one of the reasons why UNK has such a strong, rich athletic tradition as we sit down with a legendary football coach right after this.
Loper Review is brought to you by Nebraska Star Beef.
The Nebraska Star Beef Pure Promise. No antibiotics, no hormones, humane treatment of animals, USDA choice or higher, a price that is always fair, and satisfaction guaranteed. At Nebraska Star Beef, we pay close attention to what we feed our families and are passionate about delivering beef that you can feel good about serving to your family. Visit us at nebraskastarbeef.com for more information.
Programming is made possible in part by the Museum of Nebraska Art in Kearney. From the artist explores through the modern era to the art of today, Mona tells the story of Nebraska through the art of Nebraska. Whether you're online at mona.unk.edu or on our doorstep, there's always something new to see and do.
This is Loper Review, brought to you by Nebraska Star Beef.
Welcome back. You know, it was almost 60 years ago that Al Zickman was hired to be the head football coach for the Lopers. That began after a 15-minute-long meeting with school president Herbert Cushing, and after 8 years of coaching at the high school level. Now, that 8 years of coaching in high school began after Zickman turned down George Halas and the Chicago Bears twice. The first time he turned down Coach Halas was after his playing career for the University of Nebraska. The second came after he finished his service to our country, serving in the U.S. Navy during World War II.
So I spent my 3.5 years in the Navy, came out, and here's George Halas again. Al, I want you to come and play football as a wide receiver for the Chicago Bears. And I said, well, I appreciate that, but now I have just signed a contract to coach in a Class A school in Nebraska, and I have a new daughter, and everything it just doesn't stack up just right. But I said, I do have a request of you. Could I borrow one of your playbooks for the Chicago Bears? He said, sure, I'll send it to you. And my goodness, he did. He sent me the Chicago Bear playbook with all the plays in it and everything, and it worked like a charm for us. You know, it's pretty much the same thing. Many of the colleges we played had not seen anything like that before, with the split ends and the slot backs and motion and so on.
Claire Boroff, a member of the UNK Hall of Fame in his own right, played for Coach Zickman, was an assistant coach for him, and then succeeded him as head coach. Although Coach Zickman still has the best winning percentage in Loper football history, Coach Boroff has the most total wins.
It just seemed to me as you know, like it's probably a little clearer today than it was when I played, but he was way ahead of his time. We were in a lot of different offensive formations. He was very innovative in the things that he did, and the coaches that he had did a good job of teaching it. And so as players, you know, we thoroughly enjoyed playing for Coach Zick and being a part of either the offense or the defense at that time, because it was ahead of its time.
My coach in college at the university was Biff Jones. He was a major in the Army, and our practice sessions were set up by the minutes. You know, we'd have 10 minutes at this drill, and we ran to the next drill, and we'd have 12 minutes in the next drill, and so on. And we never had long, drug-out practices. They were curt, to the point, and we got it done and covered.
I had the privilege of taking football theory, not only to play for Coach Zick, but also to take football theory. And as I look back, just the way he prepared his students to go out into public education and to coach was just phenomenal. The organization, the expertise, the preciseness, all of those things were just so critical.
I don't like to lose. I'm a poor loser. I mean, I don't react as some coaches might react that you probably are aware of, but anyway, when we go out on the field, we're planning to win, and that's what I plan to do every game, no matter what, whether we were overmatched or undermatched.
The standout for me was just the people that you got the privilege of being associated with and to work with, and to see how hard young men were willing to work to be successful if you just provided the proper leadership. And that's what Coach Zick did, and that's what we tried to do as a coaching staff here at Kearney State/UNK.
Coach Zickman led the Lopers to a victory in Shenandoah, Iowa's Botany Bowl at the end of his first season. It didn't really seem like it at the time, but that win would reap very practical benefits for the campus for decades to come.
And when it came time for the guarantee, they said, we're sorry, but we didn't have a crowd, and we don't have any guarantee money to give you, but we'll pay you off in nursery stock from the 2 nurseries in Shenandoah. And in the spring, semi-truckload of trees and bushes and everything, and they were planted all over the campus there. So that was part of our deal. But winning that first bowl game was a thrill. We were primarily Nebraska-born people. They had a lot of pride. We had no scholarships. They played because they loved to play, and they played because they wanted to win. And I had great respect for my players.
We certainly want to say thanks to Coach Zickman for allowing us to put him in our Loper Spotlight. And that does wrap up our show for this month. We want to thank you so much for joining us. We'll do it again next month when we'll take a look at Loper Athletics. Until then, see ya, and go Lopers.
Loper Review has been brought to you by Nebraska Star Beef.
The Nebraska Star Beef Pure Promise. No antibiotics, no hormones, humane treatment of animals, USDA choice or higher, a price that is always fair, and satisfaction guaranteed. At Nebraska Star Beef, we pay close attention to what we feed our families and are passionate about delivering beef that you can feel good about serving to your family. Visit us at nebraskastarbeef.com for more information.
From the artist explores, through the modern era, to the art of today, Mona tells the story of Nebraska through the art of Nebraska. Whether you're online at mona.unk.edu or on our doorstep, there's always something new to see and do.